She'll take care of the bills anyway. She always does. My sister's voice echoed from my phone speaker, followed by that same careless laugh I'd heard countless times before. I froze in my kitchen in Portland, Maine, staring at the screen. The voice note wasn't meant for me. It was supposed to go to my mom. But Vanessa had sent it to the wrong contact. For 3 seconds, I just listened, her giggling, talking about me as if I were some endless source of money. Then, almost automatically, I hit the download button, saving the message before it vanished into the digital void. My name is Nora. I'm 29 years old. And for the past 4 years, I've been the one covering nearly every expense my family had. I work as a medical billing specialist at Grand AI, a healthcare analytics firm that handles insurance claims across New England. The pay was decent, nothing extraordinary, but I'd always been careful with money. I lived in a small one-bedroom apartment, drove a 12-year-old sedan, and brought lunch from home every day. While my coworkers grabbed takeout or dined at trendy cafes downtown, I ate my homemade sandwiches at my desk and saved every extra dollar. My sister Vanessa, 25, was the opposite. She'd never saved a cent in her life. She worked part-time at a boutique clothing store, the kind of job where she spent more on her employee discounts than she earned. She still lived with my mom in the same 3-bedroom rental where we grew up, on the edge of town. Neither of them worked full-time. Neither seemed to care, but that voice note kept replaying in my head long after I heard it. She'll take care of the bills anyway. She always does, that laugh. That thoughtless laugh. I put my phone down and pressed my palms to the cool laminate countertop, trying to calm the anger rising inside me. It wasn't the first time I'd felt used, but it was the first time I'd actually heard them admit it. Years of helping out, being the reliable one, keeping the lights on and rent paid. And this was what they thought of me. Not family, just a safety net. A fool. The electric bill was due in 9 days. I'd been paying it for 3 years, ever since my mom called one cold winter evening, crying because the power was about to be shut off if she didn't come up with $300 by Friday. I'd covered it that time, and every time after. The bill was in my name now. I'd added myself as a co-holder just to make the payments easier. My mom had been grateful. Vanessa barely said a word. I opened my banking app and stared at the automatic payment scheduled for the 23rd. One click, and I could cancel it. But I didn't, not yet. I needed to think. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed replaying every conversation. Every time I'd handed over money without hesitation, the $400 Vanessa needed for her car repairs, the medical bill Mom couldn't pay that I'd put on my credit card. They'd once asked me to contribute to Vanessa's birthday dinner at an upscale restaurant I couldn't afford. Still, I went along with it, because I didn't want to be the one to spoil the celebration. I told myself that's what family was about. You help each other. You show up. You make sacrifices. But the truth was, they'd never done the same for me. When I needed help moving into my apartment, Vanessa had been too busy. When I asked my mom to watch my cat for a weekend so I could attend a work conference, she said it was too much responsibility. And when I mentioned struggling with student loans, they quickly changed the subject. That voice note sat in my saved messages like proof of something I didn't want to believe. She'll cover the bills anyway. She always does, I wanted to scream. I wanted to call Vanessa right then and demand an explanation. Ask how she could be so indifferent, so entitled. But I already knew how it would go. She'd apologize, claim it was just a joke, and make me feel like I was overreacting. My mom would defend her, tell me I was being too sensitive. They'd twist things until I felt like the problem. Then, within a week, everything would go back to the same pattern. I'd keep paying, they'd keep taking, and nothing would change, unless I changed it. That thought came quietly, but settled heavily in my mind. I didn't have to keep doing this. I didn't owe them my savings or stability. I didn't owe them anything. The next morning, I went to work as usual, but everything felt different. Sitting at my desk processing claims, my hands moved across the keyboard automatically while my mind raced through options. Around 10, my coworker Jessica stopped by my cubicle, coffee in hand. "You okay?" she asked. "You look like you're planning something." I looked up and forced a smile. Just thinking about family stuff. She wrinkled her nose in understanding. "Say no more. Family's always complicated. If only she knew." I spent my lunch break reviewing my finances, really looking at them for the first time in months. Without that electric bill, I'd have an extra $170 a month. It didn't sound like much, but over a year, it added up to more than $2,000. Money I could put toward my loans, save, or use for something that actually mattered to me. But it wasn't just about the money. It was about the principle, about being recognized as a person, not a bank account. That evening, I sat on my couch with a glass of wine, staring at my phone. The due date was coming closer. 9 days had become 8, then soon 7. Each day felt like a countdown, ticking toward a decision I wasn't sure I could make. I didn't tell anyone what I was planning. How could I? If I said it out loud, if I admitted I was thinking about letting the power at my mom's house get cut off to teach my sister a lesson, people would call me cruel. They'd say I was being petty. That family mattered more than pride. But they didn't know what it was like to be taken for granted, over and over again. Growing up, Vanessa had always been the favorite. No one ever said it directly, but it showed in countless little ways. She got brand new clothes for school while I wore hand-me-downs from our cousins. She received a car for her 16th birthday. I rode the bus. When she decided to attend cosmetology school, Mom helped her pay for it. But when I wanted to go to a 4-year university, I was told we couldn't afford it. So I went to community college instead and worked 2 jobs to cover my expenses. I used to believe it was because Vanessa was the youngest, the one who needed extra support. But now I wasn't so sure. Maybe it was because she'd never been expected to handle responsibility. She learned early that someone would always rescue her, and that someone was usually me. Mom had raised us alone after Dad left when I was 7. I still remembered those early years, the stress, the tears at the kitchen table as she sorted through unpaid bills. I'd promised myself I'd never add to her burdens. I focused on school, earned decent grades, and found a steady job. I did everything right. Vanessa did everything wrong. Yet somehow, life was still easier for her. When she dropped out of cosmetology school halfway through, Mom simply shrugged and said, "It's not for everyone." When she quit 3 jobs in 2 years because she didn't like her bosses, Mom sympathized and told her she deserved better. When she maxed out her credit cards on clothes and concert tickets, Mom helped her set up payment plans, and when they couldn't pay the electric bill, they called me. I thought about that voice note again, the casual cruelty in her words. She'll cover the bills anyway. They didn't see me as kind. They saw me as dependable, predictable, a guaranteed solution. That week, I began pulling back in small ways, just to see what would happen. When Vanessa texted to ask if I wanted dinner, I said I was busy. When Mom called to chat, I kept it brief. I didn't offer help. I didn't ask if they needed anything. I simply stayed on the sidelines of their lives instead of the center, and waited to see if they'd notice. They didn't. 5 days before the bill's due date. Mom called around 8 p.m. I almost ignored it. But curiosity won. "Hey, sweetie," she said warmly. "How are you?" "I'm fine. What's up?" "Oh, nothing much. Just wanted to check in. We haven't talked in a few days." "Yeah, work's been busy," I said. There was a pause. I could tell she wanted to ask for something, but didn't know how to say it. The silence grew heavy between us. "Everything okay?" I finally asked, even though I already knew. "Oh, same old thing. Bills piling up, trying to keep up with expenses." "It's hard, Nora. I don't know how you manage." I clenched my jaw. This was the setup, the part where she'd hint at needing money without asking outright, hoping guilt would make me offer. "You'll manage," I said plainly. Another pause followed. "Well, I should let you go. Just wanted to hear your voice." "Okay, talk later." I ended the call and sat there, feeling a strange sense of satisfaction. She had expected me to jump in and offer help, but I didn't. For the first time in years, I had let her handle things on her own. The satisfaction, though, didn't last. Soon it was replaced by that familiar wave of guilt pressing heavily on my chest. What if they truly couldn't pay the bill this time? What if the power got cut off and my mom couldn't afford to turn it back on? What if Vanessa lost all the food in the fridge, or my mom couldn't charge her phone during an emergency? I kept reminding myself it wasn't my problem. They were adults. They'd figure it out. But the guilt kept gnawing at me. 3 days before the due date, Vanessa texted, "Hey, can you send me like $50? I'm short on gas money and need to get to work." I stared at the message for a while. $50, hardly anything. I could send it without even noticing it missing. But if I did, I'd fall right back into the same cycle, always saying yes, always making things easier, never setting boundaries. I typed back, "Sorry, I'm tight on money this month." It wasn't true. I had more than enough, but it felt good to say no for once. She didn't reply immediately. When she finally did, her message was short. "Okay, no worries." Like it didn't matter. Like she'd just find someone else to ask. 2 days before the bill was due, I got a notification from the electric company reminding me of the upcoming payment. I opened the app, my finger hovering over the cancel button. I thought about that voice note, about all the times I'd given money and received nothing but silence in return. I remembered the years of being invisible, taken for granted, used, and then I pressed cancel. The payment vanished from the schedule, and the money stayed in my account. For the first time in a long time, I felt in control. The due date came and went. No call from my mom, no message from Vanessa. The electric company would send them a notice soon, warning that the payment was overdue. They'd have a few days to sort it out before the power was shut off. Maybe they'd pay it themselves. Maybe they'd borrow from someone else. Maybe they'd finally realize they couldn't rely on me forever. Or maybe they'd finally experience what it feels like to be left in the dark. On the evening the power was scheduled to be disconnected, I found myself driving past my mom's house. I hadn't planned it. I told myself it was just a coincidence, that I was running errands in the area. But the truth was, I needed to see it for myself. I needed to confirm that I had actually gone through with it, that I had truly allowed this to happen. It was nearly 7 p.m. when I turned onto their street, the sky settling into that deep purple that signals the approach of night. The other houses glowed warmly, lights shining through windows, televisions flickering behind curtains. Life carried on normally, except at my mom's. Her house was dark and still. Every window black, no porch light, no glow from the living room, nothing. I slowed the car almost to a stop, my heart racing as I stared at the unlit building. They were home. I could see my mom's car in the driveway and Vanessa's old sedan parked along the street. But inside, everything was dark. The power was off. I had done it. I had really let it happen. For a moment, I felt a surge of what might have been triumph. They had finally hit a boundary, finally faced a consequence. Perhaps now they'd understand that I wasn't an endless resource to be drawn upon at their convenience. Then a movement caught my eye near the front window. A shadow flickered faintly in the dim streetlight. Someone was standing there, looking out. I couldn't tell if it was my mom or Vanessa, but whoever it was seemed to be staring directly at my car. I pressed the gas and drove away, hands trembling on the wheel. Back home, I collapsed onto the couch, releasing a breath I hadn't realized I was holding. My phone lay on the coffee table, silent. No calls, no messages. They hadn't reached out. Maybe they were embarrassed. Maybe they couldn't admit they'd been caught off guard. Or maybe they had no idea I was responsible. Perhaps they thought it was the power company's mistake, a forgotten payment, or just bad luck. I wanted them to know it was me, to realize I had stopped supporting them. But at the same time, the thought of their confrontation terrified me. The next morning, I woke to 3 missed calls from my mom and a series of texts from Vanessa. My mom's messages were anxious. "Nora, call me when you get this. It's important." Vanessa's were sharp. "Where the hell are you? We need to talk." Sitting on the edge of my bed, staring at the screen, I knew the moment had come. They knew. I called my mom first, stomach twisting with anxiety. She answered immediately. "Nora, thank God, I've been trying to reach you. What's going on?" "The power's out. They shut it off yesterday, and I don't know what happened. I thought the bill was paid. It's always paid." Her voice cracked, and I felt that familiar pang of guilt. She sounded genuinely confused, unable to understand what had happened. "Did you check with the electric company?" I asked, keeping my voice neutral. "Yes," she said. "I called them this morning. They said the payment didn't go through, but I don't understand." "You always take care of it." There it was again. The expectation, the assumption, not a thank you, not an "I appreciate what you do." Just a statement of fact. I always handle it. So naturally, it should be handled. "Maybe there was a problem with the payment," I said cautiously. "Did they say how much you owe?" "Almost $200 with the late fees." "Nora, I don't have that kind of money right now. Can you help us out? Just this once. Just this once. Like the hundreds of other times never existed." I closed my eyes, inhaled deeply. This was the moment I could give in, apologize, blame a technical issue, and send the money immediately. Everything would return to normal. They'd never know it had been deliberate. Or I could stand firm. I can't, I said quietly. Silence. What do you mean you can't? I mean, I don't have the money to spare right now. I have my own bills to manage. But Nora, we don't have power. We can't cook, charge our phones. Vanessa has to work tonight and she needs to straighten her hair and do her makeup. How is she supposed to do that in the dark? I almost laughed at the absurdity. Vanessa's hair and makeup were the priority, not the fact that I had quietly been supporting their lives for years, without acknowledgement or thanks. I'm sorry, I said sincerely. I'm sorry it came to this. I'm sorry they pushed me so far. But I'm not sorry for finally saying no. Nora, please. You've always helped us before. Why are you acting like this? I can't keep doing this, Mom. I've been paying your electric bill for 3 years. I've covered expenses for you and Vanessa whenever needed, and I'm exhausted. She was silent for a long moment. When she spoke again, her voice was icy. I can't believe you do this to your own family. The accusation hit harder than I expected. I had anticipated anger, but not the venom. I'm not doing anything to you, I said, keeping my voice steady. I'm simply not doing this anymore. There's a difference. You're calling it selfish. Maybe I am. Or maybe I'm just tired of being used. She hung up without another word. I stared at my phone, hands shaking. Part of me wanted to call back, apologize, fix it. But a stronger part knew that doing so would change nothing. An hour later, Vanessa texted, I can't believe you let this happen. We really needed that money. You were supposed to be there for us. I didn't respond. Over the next few days, my phone was flooded with messages from both of them. Some were angry, accusing me of abandoning them. Others pleaded, begging me to reconsider. Some tried to manipulate me, making me feel guilty. I ignored every single message. A week passed, then 2. I eventually learned through a family friend that my mom had borrowed money from a neighbor to get the power back on, and Vanessa had picked up extra shifts at work to help with the bills. They were managing. They were handling things on their own without me. Gradually, the guilt started to fade. In its place came something different, something that felt a lot like relief. I wasn't responsible for them anymore. I wasn't their safety net. I was just Nora, living my life and taking care of myself. Still, I knew this wasn't over. The voice note remained on my phone, and I hadn't forgotten what Vanessa had said. She'll cover the bills anyway. She always does. They thought I was predictable, that I'd always come running back. I was about to prove them wrong. 3 weeks after the power had been cut, my Aunt Patricia called. She was my mom's older sister, and while we didn't talk often, we'd always had a decent relationship. When I saw her name on my screen, I immediately guessed my mom had reached out to her. Nora, honey, how are you? Her voice was careful, measured. I'm fine, Aunt Patricia. What's up? Well, I spoke to your mother yesterday. She's very upset about the electric bill situation. I leaned back in my chair and closed my eyes. Of course she had called Patricia. My mom loved gathering allies when things didn't go her way. I see, I said. Patricia continued. You refused to help when they really needed it. That doesn't sound like you, Nora. You've always been so responsible. There it was again, responsible. As if it defined me, as if it were my obligation. I've been helping them for years, Aunt Patricia. I just couldn't keep doing it, I replied, but they're family. Your mother raised you alone. She sacrificed so much for you girls. I felt a flare of anger. Everyone always mentioned my mother's sacrifices, but no one talked about mine. No one acknowledged the years I spent being the dependable one while Vanessa got away with everything. I know, I said calmly. And I've spent the last 4 years paying her back for it, literally. Patricia sighed. I'm not trying to make you feel guilty, sweetheart. I just think you should reconsider. Your mom is really struggling right now. Then maybe Vanessa should help her. She lives there too. And she doesn't earn as much as I do because she works part-time and spends her money on things she doesn't need, I interrupted. I have to get back to work. Thanks for calling. I hung up before she could respond. That conversation shook me more than I cared to admit. It wasn't just my mom and Vanessa anymore. Other family members were getting involved, painting me as the villain. Angry would have been easier to handle, but disappointment? That felt far worse. That evening, I met my friend Jessica for dinner at a small Italian restaurant downtown. I'd been avoiding social interactions since the power incident, unwilling to explain what had happened, but Jessica insisted. She could tell something was off. All right, Spill, she said as soon as we'd ordered. You've been acting strange for weeks. What's going on? I hesitated, then realized I needed to share it with someone. I recounted the entire situation, The years of financial support, the voice note, the canceled payment, and the fallout. Jessica listened quietly, her expression shifting from surprise to what seemed like protective anger. "Are you serious?" she asked when I finished. "They actually expected you to keep paying forever? That's insane." "You did the right thing, Nora. They were taking advantage of you." Hearing her affirm my decision lifted a weight from my chest. I had been burdened with doubt and guilt, and having someone validate my choice felt like permission to stop second-guessing myself. My family, of course, didn't see it that way. They were the ones benefiting from the situation. Jessica leaned forward, her eyes serious. "I know it's complicated because it's family, but you can't set yourself on fire to keep others warm. They're adults. They can manage their own bills." I nodded, but an uneasy feeling lingered. This wasn't over. 2 days later, I received a text from Vanessa. "We need to talk in person." My first instinct was to ignore it, but curiosity won. "Fine. When and where?" I replied, "Tomorrow. Coffee shop on Bridge Street, noon." I arrived 10 minutes early, taking a corner table where I could see the door. My stomach was in knots. I hadn't seen Vanessa much in the past month, and I had no idea what to expect. She arrived exactly at noon, wearing a new jacket I didn't recognize and carrying a designer purse that probably cost more than my monthly groceries. She spotted me immediately and approached, her expression hard. "Thanks for meeting me," she said, sitting down without ordering. "What did you want to talk about?" She folded her arms and leaned back, studying me. "I want to know what your problem is." "Excuse me?" I said. "You heard me. What's your problem? Why are you suddenly acting like you don't care about us?" I felt my jaw tighten. "I'm not acting like I don't care. I'm just not paying your bills anymore." "Our bills," she corrected. "Mom's bills, the house bills. The house where you live rent-free while working 20 hours a week." "You don't know what my life is like," she said. "You're right, I don't," I replied. "Because you only talk to me when you need something." That seemed to catch her off guard. Her expression faltered briefly before the mask of anger returned. "That's not true. When's the last time you called just to check on me? When's the last time you asked about my life or my job? Anything that wasn't about you?" She didn't answer. "You sent me a voice note," I continued, my voice low but steady. "You probably don't remember it. You were talking to Mom but hit my contact by mistake." Her face went pale. "What voice note?" "The one where you laughed about how I'd cover the bills anyway." "How I always do." Her color drained completely. She opened her mouth, then closed it, then opened it again. "Nora, it wasn't like that." "How was it meant then?" I asked. "I was just joking," she replied. "That's the problem, Vanessa. To you, it's a joke. My money, my time, my help. It might seem laughable to some, but this is my real life. This is money I've earned, money I could have used for myself." She glanced down at her hands. "I didn't know you felt this way. You never told me." We sat in silence for a moment. I thought maybe, just maybe, this could be a turning point. Maybe she'd apologize. Maybe she'd acknowledge what she'd taken for granted. Instead, she looked up, tears in her eyes, and said, "So what now? Are you just going to abandon us?" The manipulation was obvious. It could have been funny if it weren't so infuriating. "I'm not abandoning anyone," I said. "I'm setting boundaries." "Same thing," she shot back. "No, it's not," I insisted. She stood up abruptly. "You know what? Fine. Do whatever you want, but don't come crying to us when you need something and no one's there." Without another word, she walked out, leaving me alone with my untouched coffee. I should have felt triumphant. I had stood my ground and refused to be manipulated. But all I felt was exhausted. The following weeks were strange. My mom and Vanessa stopped contacting me entirely. The silence was both a relief and deeply unsettling. I kept expecting a new crisis to pull me back into their world. It came as a Facebook message from my cousin Derek, Aunt Patricia's son. "Hey Nora, I heard about what happened with your mom. Just checking in, are you okay? Family stuff is complicated." I stared at the message, unsure of his intentions. Derek and I weren't particularly close, though he'd always been kind. Maybe he was genuinely concerned, or maybe he was part of a campaign to guilt me. "I'm fine." "Thanks for asking," I typed back. His reply came quickly. "Good. For what it's worth, I think you did what you had to do." "I know how it is with them." I sat up, curious. "I know how it is with them?" He continued. "We should grab lunch sometime. I'd like to catch up. Curiosity won." We met the following Saturday at a diner halfway between our homes. Derek, 32 and 3 years older than me, worked as a mechanic. At family gatherings, he'd always been quiet, content to stay in the background while others fought for attention. After we ordered, he got straight to the point. My mom told me about the electric bill situation. I'm sure she had a lot to say. He gave a small smile. She did. But I've also heard for years how much you help them out, how you're always the one they call for money. It's fine, I said automatically, then corrected myself. It was fine. It's not anymore. Good, he said, looking at me intently. Good, Nora. I've watched this happen my whole life. Your mom always favored Vanessa. She always expected you to be the responsible one, while letting Vanessa get away with everything. It wasn't fair, and it wasn't your responsibility to keep enabling it. Hearing someone in my family say that out loud made something inside me break. Tears welled up, but I quickly blinked them back. Why didn't you ever say anything? I asked. He shrugged. Would it have mattered? Your mom doesn't want to hear it. She thinks you're tough and that Vanessa needs more help. She doesn't realize she's created a dynamic where you give everything and Vanessa takes it all. It's exhausting. I bet my mom does the same with my brother, I said. She acts like he can't be responsible. Meanwhile, I'm the one she calls when something breaks or when she needs help moving furniture. Does it ever get easier setting boundaries? He asked. Yeah, eventually. But people don't like it. Be ready for that. His words stayed with me long after lunch. That night, an email from my mom appeared in my inbox. The subject line, "We need to talk." I almost deleted it, but curiosity won. The email was long, rambling, and full of accusations. She wrote about her hurt, how she couldn't believe I'd turned my back on family, how Vanessa was devastated by my actions. She reminded me of every sacrifice she'd made, and every hardship from my childhood, as if they obligated me to support them indefinitely, yet in the middle of her guilt-laden paragraphs was one sentence that stood out. Vanessa told me about the voice note. I don't appreciate you bringing that up to hurt her. I read it 3 times, anger rising with each pass. She knew about the voice note. She knew what Vanessa had said. And instead of acknowledging that they might have treated me unfairly, she was angry that I confronted Vanessa. I closed my laptop without replying. The next day at work, I threw myself into a project that had been sitting on my desk for weeks. It felt good to focus on something I could control, something with clear rules and predictable results. Healthcare billing was tedious but logical. Around 3 p.m., my phone rang, an unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Is this Nora? An unfamiliar voice asked. Yes, who's this? My name is Kelly. I'm a friend of Vanessa's. She gave me your number. My guard went up immediately. Look, I'm just calling because I'm worried about her. She's been really down, and I know you two aren't speaking. I was hoping you might reach out. I closed my eyes. Of course, Vanessa had roped in a friend to guilt me. I appreciate your concern, but this is between me and my sister, I said. I know. It's just that she's really struggling. She says she's lost her only support system. The phrasing struck me. Lost her only support system. Not lost her sister. Kelly, can I ask you something? I said, sure. Did Vanessa tell you why we're not talking? There was a pause. She said you cut her off financially. Did she mention anything else? Like the fact that I've been supporting her and my mom for years? That I paid their electric bill every month for 3 straight years? Another longer pause. She said you helped out sometimes. I almost laughed. Sometimes? I didn't just help sometimes. I sent hundreds of dollars each month to keep their power on. I gave money whenever they asked. I had been doing this for years, and I stopped only because I couldn't afford it anymore. Oh, Kelly's voice softened. She didn't. She made it sound like you were just being mean. I'm sure she did. After hanging up, I felt strangely vindicated. Vanessa had been spinning the story to make herself look like the victim, and I had just dismantled that narrative. But it also hit me. How many others had she told the same story to? How many friends and family now saw me as the villain? I felt the need to set the record straight. That evening, I did something I had never done before. I opened Facebook and started typing a post. My hands trembled as I wrote, erased, and rewrote multiple times until I finally found the right words. Lately, I've been reflecting on family boundaries and what we truly owe one another. For years, I had been financially supporting my family because I believed it was my responsibility. I paid bills, sent money, and helped whenever asked. But over time, I realized that this pattern wasn't sustainable. And more importantly, it wasn't appreciated. When I stopped, I was accused of abandoning my family, called selfish and cruel. I want to be clear. Setting boundaries is not abandonment. Saying no is not cruelty. Taking care of yourself is not selfish. I love my family, but I cannot continue sacrificing my own financial stability to support those capable of supporting themselves. If that makes me a bad person, I will have to accept that. I stared at the post for 10 minutes before finally hitting share. My heart raced as it went live. Visible to all 347 of my Facebook friends, including several family members. Responses came quickly, some liked it. Some left supportive comments, but others, particularly older relatives, criticized me for airing family matters publicly. My mom commented, "I'm heartbroken you wrote this instead of talking to us directly." I replied publicly, "I tried talking to you directly. You hung up on me." Vanessa didn't comment, but I knew she had seen it. Within an hour, she unfriended me. That night, my phone rang again. This time it was Aunt Patricia, her tone sharper than before. "Nora, what were you thinking posting that on Facebook?" I calmly explained that I was tired of being misrepresented. I hadn't named anyone. I had simply shared my side. Yet somehow everyone assumed I was heartless, she sighed. "This is family business. You don't put family business on the internet," I countered quietly. Maybe if people hadn't been talking about me behind my back, I wouldn't have needed to. After 10 minutes of back and forth, she finally hung up. I felt both empowered and drained. In the following days, messages from relatives poured in. Some were supportive. My cousin Derek sent a thumbs-up emoji with, "Proud of you." Others criticized me, claiming I had embarrassed the family. The most surprising message came from someone I barely knew, Vanessa's coworker, Brianna, whom I had met once at a family barbecue. "Hey Nora, I saw your post. I don't know if this matters, but you should know Vanessa has been bragging at work that she never pays for anything because her sister covers all her bills. She's been laughing about it. I always thought it was strange, but after seeing your post, I wanted you to know." I read the message 3 times, my frustration growing with each pass. She wasn't just thoughtless. She had been actively mocking me to others, turning my generosity into a joke. I needed answers and wanted her to understand that actions have consequences. The next evening, I drove to my mom's house unannounced. Both cars were in the driveway. I sat in my car for a few minutes, gathering courage, then walked to the front door and knocked. My mom answered, her expression wary. "Nora, what are you doing here? I need to speak with both you and Vanessa." "I don't think that's a good idea right now." "I don't care if it's a good idea. We're talking now." Something in my tone must have convinced her, because she stepped aside and let me in. The house looked familiar, lived in, cluttered, but not dirty. Vanessa was sprawled on the couch watching TV and sat up quickly when she saw me. "What are you doing here?" "We're having a conversation, just the 3 of us." My mom settled into her usual armchair while I remained standing. I wanted the height advantage, a silent signal that I wasn't going to be pushed around anymore. "I've been hearing some interesting things," I began. "Vanessa? About how you've been talking about me? Bragging to your coworkers about how your sister pays for everything?" Vanessa's face flushed. "I don't know what you're talking about. Don't lie. I have messages. I have proof." She glanced at my mom, who looked equally uncomfortable. "Here's what's going to happen," I continued. "I'll tell you exactly how much I've spent supporting this household over the past 4 years. Then both of you will apologize, not because I demand it, but because it's the right thing to do." "Nora," my mom started. "I'm not finished. I've paid your electric bills for 3 years, over $6,000. I've covered groceries, car repairs, medical bills, and even Vanessa's credit card payments. Altogether, it's over $15,000 in 4 years. $15,000 I could have used for student loans, a house, or anything else." The number hung in the air. I had never added it up before, but hearing it aloud made it real. "I didn't realize it was that much," my mom admitted quietly. "Of course you didn't," I said. "You never asked. You just assumed I'd keep giving." Vanessa stared at her hands. Still red-faced. "I saved the voice note," I said, pulling out my phone, the one where you laughed about me covering the bills. "Should I play it?" "No, don't," Vanessa said quickly. "Why not?" "You said it. You need to own it." "I was wrong," she said, voice trembling. "I shouldn't have said that. You shouldn't have thought it, but you did. And the worst part? You've been laughing about this at work, mocking my kindness. Tears streamed down Vanessa's face. I'm really sorry. I didn't think about how it would make you feel. That's the problem. You never consider how things affect others. You only think about yourself. I turned to my mom. You enabled this. You've allowed Vanessa to believe it's okay to treat me this way because you've treated me the same. You've always put her first, expecting me to be responsible while she does as she pleases. My mom's eyes were wet. I never meant to make you feel that way. But you did. And now we're here. The room fell silent except for Vanessa's soft crying. I'm not paying your bills anymore, I said. I won't give money on demand. I'm not your backup plan. You're both adults. You need to handle this yourselves. Nora, please, my mom began. I'm not finished. You also need to tell the family the truth. Explain that I didn't cut you off arbitrarily. Share the years of support, the voice note, everything. You're asking us to humiliate ourselves. I'm asking for honesty. That's different. I turned toward the door, then paused. One more thing. If I ever hear that either of you talks about me behind my back, mocks me, or lies about what happened, I will share every receipt, every bank statement, every piece of evidence. Everyone will know exactly who you are. Do we understand each other? They both nodded silently. I walked out and drove home, my hands trembling on the steering wheel. I had done it. I'd confronted them and said everything I needed to. Yet I knew this wasn't truly over. That confrontation at my mom's house changed something. For the first time, I stopped managing their emotions and just spoke the truth. The heavy weight pressing on my chest for years lifted just enough for me to breathe. But the aftermath was complicated. 2 days later, my mom called. Her voice was small when I answered. Nora, I've been thinking about what you said about the money and everything. I waited, letting the pause hang. I spoke with Vanessa. We're going to tell Aunt Patricia the truth about how much you've helped us over the years. And we'll stop saying you abandoned us. You're right. That's not what happened. It wasn't the full apology I wanted, but it was something. Thank you, I said quietly. I also want to apologize. I didn't realize how much pressure I was putting on you. I assumed because you had a good job, helping us wouldn't bother you. I was wrong. I just didn't know how to say no. She paused. I should have asked instead of assuming. That wasn't fair to you. We talked for another 20 minutes, the longest honest conversation we'd had in years. She shared her financial stress, the fear after my dad left, and how she leaned on me because I seemed capable. I shared the resentment that had been building, the feeling of being invisible and taken for granted. It wasn't perfect and it didn't fix everything, but it was a start. Vanessa was different. She didn't call or text. According to Mom, she felt embarrassed and didn't know what to say. Part of me wanted to reach out, but a bigger part knew she had to make the first move. 3 weeks passed. I focused on work, spent time with Jessica, and started planning a vacation, the first in 5 years. I realized I had been spending my vacation money on family instead of myself. Then, one Saturday morning, the doorbell rang. I wasn't expecting anyone. Through the peephole, I saw Vanessa standing there, nervous, hands in her jacket pockets. I opened the door cautiously. Hey, she said. Can I come in? I stepped aside. We sat in the living room, silence stretching between us. I've been trying to figure out what to say, she finally admitted. I wrote 10 texts and deleted all of them. Why are you here now? I asked. Because Mom said I needed to apologize in person, and she's right. She took a deep breath. Nora, I'm sorry. For the voice note, for bragging at work, for everything. I treated you like a bank, not a sister, and that was wrong. I studied her face, wondering if she meant it. I've been thinking about what you said about me never asking about your life. You're right. I only call when I need something. That was wrong. I took advantage of you because you always said yes. I didn't consider what it cost you. Do you understand why you had to stop? Yes, I do now, I said. I didn't before. But I get it. You can't keep burning yourself out to keep us going. That's what Mom said you told her. She told me a lot. How much money you've actually given us over the years. I didn't know it was that much, Nora. I swear I didn't. You never asked, I reminded her. She flinched. I know. That's on me. We sat in silence. I wanted to believe her. I wanted this conversation to mark real change. I'm not going back to how things were, I said firmly. I'm not your safety net anymore. If you need help, you'll have to figure it out yourself, ask Mom, or get a better job. but not me. I know. I'm not asking for that. I just want us to try having a real sisterly relationship, not one of bank and customer. I considered this. I'd like that, but it will take time. You hurt me, and it's not something I can just move past because you apologized. I understand. I'll wait however long it takes, she said. She left a few minutes later, and I sank onto the couch, feeling an unusual sense of hope. Maybe she truly understood. Maybe things could actually change. Yet I had learned to protect myself. I knew people could say all the right things and still revert to old habits. I decided to test it. For the next month, I didn't reach out to Vanessa at all. I wanted to see if she would genuinely follow through on her promise to build a meaningful relationship, or if she would vanish again until she needed something. To my surprise, she stayed in touch. She sent random texts throughout the week, funny videos, questions about my day. She invited me to lunch and insisted on paying. She showed real interest when I spoke about work or vacation plans. These were small gestures, but they added up. 6 weeks after her apology, we met for coffee. She seemed different, more tired, yet also more grounded. I got a second job, she said. Retail 3 nights a week. It's tough, but the money helps. That's good. Mom and I have been discussing me maybe moving out, just a studio or something. But I need to save first. I felt a spark of pride. That's a big step. Yeah, it's hard. I'm used to not worrying about money because I knew you'd always cover things. But I think I needed this. I needed to grow up. I'm glad you're figuring it out. She stirred her coffee, avoiding my gaze. Can I ask you something? Sure. Are you ever going to forgive me? Like, really forgive me? I paused. I don't know. Maybe. Trust takes time, and you broke mine pretty badly. I know. I'm trying to show I've changed. I hope it's enough. 2 months after Vanessa's apology, I received a call from Aunt Patricia. Her tone was different, less judgmental, more curious. Nora, your mother told me what really happened with the money and everything. Did she? She did. I owe you an apology. I shouldn't have assumed you were wrong without hearing your side. It felt good to hear, yet a bit too late. I appreciate that. I also wanted to mention I spoke to Vanessa. She seems more mature. She's trying, and that's good. I'm glad you two are working things out. After the call, I realized the narrative had shifted. My family was beginning to see me not just as the dependable problem solver, but as someone with limits and personal needs. At work, I threw myself into a major project with promotion potential. My supervisor, Diane, had noticed my recent progress. You seem different lately, she said during a one-on-one. More focused, more confident. I've been working on setting better boundaries in my personal life. It's helping professionally too. Well, keep it up. I'm recommending you for the senior analyst position opening next quarter. The news should have thrilled me, but I felt a mix of excitement and caution. More money was great, yet it could also mean my family would expect even more from me. That evening, I called Derek. We had been talking more regularly since lunch, and he had become an unexpected source of support. I got recommended for a promotion, I told him. That's amazing. Congratulations and thanks. But I'm worried about telling my mom and Vanessa. What if they assume it means I'll start helping them again? He was quiet for a moment. Do you want to help them again? No, maybe occasionally if it's a real emergency, but not like before. Never like before. Then don't. You've set your boundaries, stick to them. What if they get upset? Let them be upset. You're allowed to succeed without it becoming everyone else's opportunity. His words stayed with me. I'd spent so much of my life anxious about others' reactions that I'd forgotten I had the right to simply live my own life. I decided to keep the potential promotion to myself until it was official. When it did come through 3 months later, I shared the news but made it clear my financial responsibilities toward them hadn't changed. That's wonderful, honey, my mom said. I'm so proud of you. Thanks, Mom. There was a pause, and I sensed she was considering asking for something. I'm managing my own bills now, I added quickly. This promotion helps, but I'm putting the extra money toward my student loans and savings. I'm not asking you for anything. I'm just happy for you, and surprisingly, I believed her. Vanessa reacted similarly. She congratulated me, asked about my new role, and didn't hint at money. It almost felt surreal. The holidays approached, and I dreaded them. Thanksgiving had always been at my mom's house with relatives dropping by. I couldn't imagine sitting through the meal with everyone aware of the situation. But my mom surprised me by suggesting a smaller gathering, just her, Vanessa, and me. I think we could use some time together without the whole family watching, she said when she called. I think that sounds nice, I replied. Thanksgiving started awkwardly. We moved around the kitchen carefully, as if walking on fragile ice. Gradually, though, we fell into a comfortable rhythm. Vanessa joked, my mom reminisced about my childhood, and I helped with cooking, actually enjoying it. After dinner, sitting in the living room with pie on our plates, my mom cleared her throat. I want to say something to both of you. She looked at me, then Vanessa. I made a lot of mistakes raising you girls. I put too much pressure on Nora, and not enough on Vanessa. I created an unfair dynamic, and I'm sorry, Vanessa nodded. I'm sorry too. For everything, they looked at me waiting. I forgive you, I said, and meant it. I'm not saying everything's perfect now, or that I'm going back to how things were, but I forgive you. My mom's eyes filled with tears. Thank you. The rest of the evening was about the future instead of the past. Vanessa shared her plans to take online classes and maybe finish her degree. My mom talked about possibly finding a full-time job now that she felt stronger. I spoke about eventually buying a house. For the first time in years, we felt like a family. Not just a collection of obligations and resentments. As I drove home that night, I thought about the voice note that had started it all. She would handle the bills anyway, she always did. But that version of me was gone. I was no longer the person who automatically said yes, sacrificing myself to keep others comfortable. I had become someone new, someone with boundaries, someone who valued herself, which mattered more than any money I could give away. Spring arrived, bringing real change. Vanessa moved into a modest apartment across town, funded by her savings from 2 jobs. My mom secured steady work as an administrative assistant at a doctor's office. They were managing their own bills and lives without me, and I was thriving. A promotion came with a significant pay increase, and for the first time, I wasn't living paycheck to paycheck. I paid off a large portion of my student loans, built an emergency fund, and booked a trip to Colorado to visit Jessica, who had moved there for a new job. Beyond financial freedom, I felt emotionally lighter. The resentment that had weighed on me for years had disappeared. I had set boundaries, enforced them, and survived the fallout. My family hadn't disowned me. They adapted. 6 months after the confrontation at my mom's house, Vanessa invited me over for dinner. She had actually cooked, and though her apartment was small, it was clean and unmistakably hers. I'm proud of you, I said as we ate pasta at her tiny kitchen table. She smiled. I'm proud of me too, she admitted. I hadn't thought I could do this on my own, but I was managing. You're doing more than managing, she said. You're thriving. I have my moments, I laughed. Like last week, when I had to choose between groceries and a haircut, and I chose groceries. That felt very adult. Welcome to adulthood. It's not so bad once you get used to it. We talked for hours that night, covering everything and nothing. She shared about a guy she was seeing from her retail job, and I spoke about the house I was considering buying. You should do it, she encouraged. Buy the house. You've earned it? Maybe. I'm still thinking about it. Don't overthink it. You deserve good things, Nora. Coming from her, those words carried more weight than she probably realized. A few weeks later, my mom invited me to lunch at a small cafe near her work. She looked happier than I'd seen in years. I wanted to tell you something, she said after we'd ordered. I've been seeing a therapist for the past 2 months. Really? Yes. After everything, I realized I needed to work on myself. To understand why I treated you the way I did, why I played favorites. What have you learned? She paused, stirring her iced tea. Mostly that I leaned on Vanessa because I saw her as fragile, and I took you for granted because you were strong. I made you a pillar to support me without considering whether you wanted that role. I didn't, and I know that now. I'm truly sorry. I appreciate that, Mom. I also want you to know I'm working on being independent, not relying on anyone to save me. It's challenging, but it's worth it. We discussed her therapy, her job, and her future plans. She mentioned a new relationship at work and seemed lighter, less burdened. I'm happy for you, I said sincerely. I'm happy for you too, sweetheart. You're doing so well. As summer approached, I finally bought a house, a small 2-bedroom cottage on the outskirts of Portland, with a backyard and a front porch for my morning coffee. It needed work, but it was mine. Vanessa, my mom, Derek, and Jessica helped me move in over the weekend. By evening, we were exhausted but happy. Your first house, my mom said, looking around the living room. I'm so proud of you. Thanks, Mom. Vanessa handed me a wrapped gift, a framed photo of the three of us from Thanksgiving, smiling at the camera. On the bottom, she wrote, "Family isn't about who supports who, it's about who shows up." Tears pricked my eyes. Thank you, both of you. We ordered pizza and sat on the porch watching the sunset. Derek told terrible jokes. Jessica complained about her boss. My mom shared about her boyfriend. And Vanessa showed photos of her apartment. That moment, the togetherness, the warmth, was exactly what I had been fighting for. Not revenge, not proving a point, but creating space for something healthier. The voice note remained saved on my phone. Sometimes I listened, not in anger, but as a reminder of how far we'd come. That old version of me was gone. My mom and Vanessa faced the consequences of their behavior. My mom worked through her favoritism in therapy while building financial independence. Vanessa endured the challenge of managing life on her own before finding her footing. They both lost my automatic support and rebuilt from accountability rather than entitlement. Family members who judged me eventually recognized the truth, and some reached out with apologies. Aunt Patricia admitted her mistake and sent a card congratulating me on the house. The change in perspective was its own form of justice. I stood on my porch watching the sunset and thought about revenge. It didn't have to be dramatic. Sometimes the best revenge is refusing to be used, setting boundaries, and living a life you're proud of. Canceling that payment and watching their lights go out was the first step. Everything afterward was me choosing myself repeatedly until it became habit. That, I realized, was the sweetest victory of all.